Welcome to Monday night. It is the night for RTTT2. Okay, that's Tango, Tango, Tango 2. Race to the top 2. Hey, great to have such a crowd with us. And boy, we have lit up Twitter. And before we get started, I want to say a special word of thanks to USPIE. The sponsor of tonight's event. That is the United States Parents Involved in Education. One of the few warriors still standing and fighting the Common Core beast after all this. And they have made arrangements for the president of their South Carolina chapter. And it is Tracy Hopple. And I want to bring Tracy on board. And we have heard from experts ranging from, well, you know, ticked off moms to members of Congress and all kinds of people. But Tracy, tell us a little bit. Well, one, welcome and thank you for sharing your time with us tonight. But your educational background, you're dealing in special ed, which is a topic that gets mentioned, but you have direct involvement in special ed and Common Core.
Yeah, hi. Thanks for having me. Right. I've been a public school teacher for 25 years. This was my 25th year. And 16, 17 of those was in special education. And just these last couple of years, I started to get really involved with how Common Core and standardized testing is affecting our kids with learning disabilities. So I appreciate this time to talk about that and what we can maybe try to do to help them be more successful in their education.
So do I have it right that if you've got special needs children, as you do, that they are basically just thrown in the same pot with everybody else and expected to pass the same test?
Yep. In working with USPI, and by the way, our website is uspie.org, so anybody listening, watching, they can go check it out and look at all kinds of different information. But we've been reviewing the new Every Student Succeeds Act, specifically the part that talks about kids with learning disabilities, and they are essentially lumped in with their normally developing and normally learning peers when it comes to standardized testing. And for kids who have learning disabilities, and usually they're diagnosed in reading and math, and when they're far enough below grade level to be in a special education program and to have an individualized education plan or an IEP written, how can they possibly, if their everyday learning is happening, how can they possibly be tested at grade level? Granted, as a special education teacher, my job is to make sure that the kids are trying to catch up, but that's paradox to what a learning disability is. Those kids generally don't catch up because they have a disability. It's inherent in them. They just learn differently. And I think our standardized tests need to go differently too.
Well, you've been involved in education, you said 25 years.
Yes.
Maybe you saw it coming, but was there a tripwire event that just sent you into orbit and put you on this journey in opposition to Common Core and its standardized testing?
There was. It was actually just this past school year when I was working with kids who were middle school kids, and they were testing out in their language arts at reading at a very low elementary level, and here I was given this standardized test, and standardized tests tend to test actually not at grade level. They tend to test 1 to 2 grade levels higher. And I had to give this test to my students reading at, let's take a 6th grader. They'd be tested at a 7th or 8th grade reading level. But in reality, the reason they were in my special education classroom is because they were reading at maybe a 1st or 2nd grade level. What does that do to a child, their confidence and their ability to believe in themselves and how they see themselves, especially at the middle school level when all of that development is happening? It just doesn't make sense. The child development, the brain stuff that's going on, none of that fits. And it just kind of, like you said, it sent me into orbit. It really got me upset because these poor kids were just panicked over.
So what'd you do?
Well, what I did is I ended up writing a letter, tried talking to administration. I wasn't heard the way I wanted to be heard. And so I ended up writing a letter to administration and the school board and the superintendent saying, I object to doing this. This isn't right. I'm here My job is to help build kids up and get them smarter and believing themselves and going out to the world and making a better difference. I object to this because all I'm doing is squishing them down, and I don't want to be a part of that.
You know, Tracy, I'm a coach, and there's some parallels here.
Yeah.
Motivation is everything.
Right.
Okay, when a player, and in your case a student, when you extinguish hope, you've extinguished the life,
Right.
the very substance of living for that. You know, because in our journey, and it really never stops. You know, but especially in the formative years,
Right.
if you have a discipline problem, you know, and you have to kick somebody off the team, in my case,
Right.
well, if there's not some hope that they can earn their way back, well, you've just turned them over to the other side.
Right.
You've handed them over to the street gangs. You've handed them over to peer group pressure. You've you know, and
Well,
how did that reflect on you as a teacher or teachers? It's not just you. Does this
right.
reflect poorly on you as a teacher when your sixth grade class scores at a below average? Do they come looking at you thinking you're messed up?
Right. And well, to your analogy too, as a teacher and students, we turn them over to unemployment. We turn them over to joblessness. If they can't get the skills they need because they are so crushed down in their own spirit and they shut down and they don't want to learn and they start to hate school and they don't believe in themselves, where does that lead them as they finish out their school career? So it's a good parallel that you brought up with a sports team. It's the same situation. But does it reflect on us as a teacher? Absolutely. There's legislation in many states that says how a student does on the standardized testing is going to start impacting teacher evaluations, and if we're kept on as teachers and our salaries and whether or not we're on probation versus a master teacher, all of that. And that's something else that needs to be addressed as well. But at US Pi or SC Pi, we have 30 chapters, 30 state chapters. We're looking at these things, and it's not a me issue. I'm not doing this alone. There's thousands of people out there that are trying to uncover all of this and to make it known to the public and encourage people to go to those websites, uspi.org, scpi.org, to dig around on the internet, to get involved with the grassroots communities and make our policymakers aware of what is going on in our public schools, how parents are seeing their children turn into crumbling messes at night doing their Common Core math homework, or so anxiety ridden before a standardized test that they can't sleep the night before, or they're crying in the morning before going to school. It happens frequently, and we all have to come together to try to change that. We can't let this happen for the sake of our kids.
Well, I think, in your own experience, when you've been doing this 25 years, you said.
Yeah.
When you were younger and training to go into this profession, we have high hopes of making a difference.
Right.
How do you feel now?
25 years I've been able to do a lot, and I've met so many great families and kids and colleagues and administrators. And it's just been these last few years, probably 2009, 2010, I started getting a bad taste in my mouth about the way public education was going. It was very difficult to see the changes that were happening and to know that what was happening at a level that we couldn't control was not being effective or being made in a positive way for the students. And teachers teach because we love kids. We don't teach for our summers off. We don't, because that actually doesn't happen. And that's a fallacy. We don't teach for the money, of course. We teach because we have a heart, because we're called to it. And these past few years, it's not about the kids anymore. It's about test scores. It's about test data. It's about collecting the data. It's about farming people into different avenues. It's just so much, and it's not what it used to be. So
let me get this right. The students are losing.
Yeah.
The teachers are losing.
Yeah.
The schools are losing.
Yeah.
Who's winning?
In my opinion, and according to the research and what I know about it, the people who are winning are the test makers, the government, and the textbook industries.
Okay. Well, for and even if you don't have children, and obviously there's some parents that are engaged in this because they care about their own children, particularly parents with special needs children. I have found.
Right.
But some people may think, well, I don't have any children. What's this got to do with me? Well, it has something to do with you, because what you're hearing being described, and it's not just Tracy, is the federalization of our schools. And I have read the 10th Amendment, and if you will care to go read it yourself, you will not find education enumerated in the powers of the federal government. So if you care about your country, if you care about the Constitution, if you care about those standards, maybe we should be looking at, instead of artificially generated standards for geared toward publishers of curriculum. It does affect everybody. And I don't know where this is going. We have we almost, if you will recall, the funding for Common Core, which it wasn't called that. They keep changing the name of it, you see, make it more palatable. We turned it back in the early part of the year. We turned it back again in April, but they passed this darn thing over a holiday weekend, and in a way I was kind of complimented, because I guess they knew we wouldn't have time to organize any grassroots opposition. But it's kind of there for the foreseeable future. What can we do
To change all of this?
That's not a rhetorical question. What
Yeah.
can we do? Is there anything?
There is. I think the power of the government is power in the people. And the more we can spread this message, and it sounds so dramatic and it sounds so, oh, the world is ending, the sky is falling. But we need to get that message out to people and have them believe the absurdities that are happening in our schools, from the people who are there every day, the teachers, the kids, the families. And then we need to keep this going, educate ourselves through uspie.org, through websites, whatever you can find, and then talking to legislators, talking to policymakers, even going in and talking to your very own school board. If the government side of it is too overwhelming and too much to handle, go talk to your school board president. Those are the people who are local and right there in your community. Oftentimes they're a neighbor. Go talk to that person and say, what's going on in our schools? Why is this happening? How can we change it? We just have to keep people informed so they can make educated decisions and come together and get that message out that federalization of education is not going to work. It doesn't work.
Well, the big carrot that was dangled was all this money.
Yeah.
Okay, so how's that working out for us? We got all this money, right?
Right.
How's that working out for us?
It's really not. And from what I experienced at the school level, it's not working out for us. It's costing more. We have to put in all this technology to make these tests happen. We have to put in all this extra time to kind of teach to the test. Our schools, the landscape of our schools are changing, and the money supposedly that Race to the Top gave to the schools is going for that. It's not going to help the kids get smarter or to make education any better.
So we've got some new hardware in our schools.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Wow. Let me tell you, here in Florida,
it's testing. It's not learning. It's for testing.
Yeah, here in Florida, when they kind of sold the lottery, all this money is going to go to education. And I know this is a little bit of a detour, but it's a myth, and it's the carrot that always gets used by government. They dangle that money carrot out there. Now, first of all, where'd they get that money? Well, it was ours to begin with.
Right.
That's another sermon. I won't go there.
Right.
But I will testify this. We built a stadium. It's right over there. It's about a mile from where I'm at right now. Mm-hmm. We got a track. We've got a stadium, got stands on the home side and the visitor side. We've got a flagpole. We've got goalposts.
Okay.
No restrooms. Porta potties.
Well,
leave it to government. But boy, that's a nice surface on that track.
Yeah.
You know, by the way, we have since the boosters raised the money to put in some
To put in some
modern.
bathrooms, that's good community coming together.
That's your government, your tax dollars at work. But this is the bait. The lottery was going to put all this money in education. May I ask, where is all the money? And I think Common Core is the same way. All this grant money, race to the top, every no child left behind, all this stuff
Hmm.
looks to me like all the children have been left behind.
That's something that people can do. Go to their schools and say, I want to see where this money went. I want to
Where's the
see how
money?
it.
Show
Yeah,
me the money. I
right.
love that. Show me the money.
That's
Remember
right.
that? Remember that movie?
Yeah.
Can't think of the title of it, but it was good. Well, Tracy, gosh, and it's hard to eat an elephant in just the little time we have remaining.
Right.
What's your plans? You have not always been president of South Carolina PIE. Where have you been, and where are you going? And then we'll have to wrap it up after that.
Sure. Where I've always been a teacher. My heart's always been with kids and trying to encourage and work with them to be the best that they can be, to follow their dreams and achieve those dreams. Where am I going? Probably in that same direction, but not in a classroom. Out in a bigger platform, something like this, talking to people and encouraging schools to find better ways to meet the educational needs of their students, and maybe find ways to get around Common Core and stop all of that nonsense and really focus back on the kids.
That's a tall order, but Tracy,
Yeah.
if anybody can do it, you can,
So,
and you're a champion. And I get it, because the things that as a coach, we don't measure. It's hard to measure character, isn't it? But you know it when you see it. You know it when you see it. And we've got, what I feel my mission is first, when sometimes I get asked this during an interview. By the way, if you're a coach, you get fired often. So you get to interview a lot. And, they say, why you want to do this? And I really give them the honest answer is I want to give back part of what I was given as a player. Because I had a good coach that has changed my life forever, molded me. It's like being a Marine or something. I don't know. I know that professionals like yourself, my father-in-law was in law enforcement. There are some professions, folks, that you just don't do for the money. And I would have to put teaching, law enforcement, and coaching in that. You have to be called to do it. It has to burn in your heart. Tracy, keep that fire burning. And we're glad to have you on board. Thanks for sharing with us tonight. You've been very gracious with your time, and thank you for all you're doing for our children.
well, thanks for the time. We have a lot of people fighting the good fight, and I'm just one of the many. So thanks for letting us have a voice tonight. Appreciate it.